War and Revolution, section. The Advent of Democracy and Historical Cycles. France, Britain, USA. Added to this first arbitrary abstraction is another. Furet recognizes that, in staging a comparison between France and Britain, the British Whig passed over the Civil War of the 1640s in complete silence. Yet this is the kind of comparativism that has triumphed today, and which enables revisionist or neoliberal literature to contrast other revolutions with the French Revolution, liquidated as abstract and productive of the Terror and the Vendéan genocide. But is separating the glorious revolution of 1688 from the English revolutionary process as a whole a sign of historical concreteness? What would we say of an author who, in order to demonstrate the sanguinary character of the English Revolution, compared it, starting with the Civil War, with the July Revolution? To freeze in a particular phase one, and only one, of the two revolutionary cycles being compared involves an arbitrary abstraction. Constant and the pre-1848 Guizot made a comparison between the French Revolution and the English Revolution as a whole, from 1640 to 1688. With reference to England, Rank refers in analogous terms to a single revolutionary process extending from the Great Rebellion to the Glorious Revolution. As regards the history of the USA, numerous historians of very different orientations regard the Civil War as a second revolution, or a second stage of the American Revolution. By contrast, Furet applies the category of historical cycle solely to France, whose revolution encompasses a period of time stretching from 1770 to 1880, that is, from the crisis of the Ancien regime to the advent and consolidation of the Third Republic. Because of its tortured development, the French Revolution is distinguished, beginning of long quote, from the American Revolution to such an extent that one hesitates to apply the same word to the two events. Both, nonetheless, were animated by the same ideas and comparable passions. They can almost be said to have founded modern democratic civilization simultaneously. Yet the American Revolution concluded in the development and ratification of a constitution that has lasted to this day and has become the sacred ark of American citizenship. The French Revolution has produced a multiplicity of constitutions and regimes and gave the world its first look at egalitarian despotism. End quote. In reality, if its objective was the emergence of a society of citizens equal before the law, and the realization of a society composed of equal individuals, in contrast to the old society of core, the democratic revolution cannot be regarded as having been concluded in the USA prior to the abolition of the institution of slavery, prior to the disappearance of an order which in the South, by the express declaration of its theoreticians and apologists, was articulated in 3 castes of free white, free colored, and slave colored population. The presuppositions of the war that occurred between 1861 and 65 were already implicit in a constitution which, on the one hand, proclaimed the natural right of every man to liberty, while on the other sanctioning the reduction of 1/5 of the population to slavery. In 1790, a motion presented by the abolitionists of Pennsylvania, and also signed by Benjamin Franklin, expressed the wish that Congress assert its powers for the purposes of restoration of liberty to those unhappy men, who alone in this land of freedom are degraded into perpetual bondage. Thomas Tucker of South Carolina immediately replied, quote, "Do these men expect a general emancipation of slaves by law? This would never be submitted to by the Southern states without a civil war." Several decades later, Calhoun, the most acute and brilliant theoretician of the beneficent character of the institution of slavery, reiterated the point. Quote, "Abolition in the Union cannot coexist." But this warning in turn elicited a prompt response from Henry Clay. War and dissolution of the Union are identical and inevitable. The advent of the Third Republic in France was virtually contemporaneous with the end of the Civil War in the USA, and the passage in Britain of the two electoral reform bills of 1867 and 84, whereby the suffrage was substantially extended. In the first country, we witnessed the collapse of the Bonapartist regime. In the second, the abolition of slavery. And in the third, not only the conquest of political rights by large sectors of the popular masses, but also the end of the discrimination that prevented Catholics, Jews, and nonconformists in general from sitting in representative bodies, sometimes from holding public office and, in certain cases, even entering universities. We can therefore say that in the late 19th century, the three countries had a political regime which, at first approximation, was fairly similar, based as it was on the possession of civil rights and parliamentary institutions, with universal or well-nigh universal male suffrage. It is now time to examine the historical processes and upheavals, and the train of sorrows and suffering involved in arriving at this outcome. That is, we must proceed to a comparative analysis of what, from various standpoints, has been defined as the democratic revolution or the bourgeois revolution in the three countries under comparison. End section.